Today, I want to talk to you about why dreaming about a hopeful future is important, using Solarpunk as an example. Hi, I'm Ruby. Welcome to What You Feed Grows. First of all, what is Solarpunk? Solarpunk started out as an aesthetic, a world-building tool in response to sci-fi works that centered on cyberpunk and steampunk, using the technology of solar panels and other green tech to revolutionize society. Now, it's a fairly established genre, aesthetic, and movement, one you're able to readily find resources on if you do a quick search or scroll through your favorite hub of content. But it has begun to take on a life of its own. Solarpunk as an ideal, as an aesthetic, continues to hold a vision for a hopeful future. Solarpunk can be seen in media, in video games like Generation Exile, a city building video game that pulls in the discussion around extractive resources, and in novels like A Psalm for the Wild Built, which paints a vivid picture of a world that relies on green tech. Media like this creates space in our cultural imaginary landscape to hold ideas of this hopeful future. Solarpunk as a movement has brought together communities, Solarpunk Discord groups bouncing around technology ideas and crowdfunding for mutual aid, Solarpunk YouTube channels talking about ways to live more sustainably, more in connection with the earth. And this has rippled out to wider institutional changes. Organizations like the Cultural Hub that was opened in Namibia, they opened this hub in connection with artists to discuss their country's future, powered by creativity and clean energy. Some of these examples don't label themselves explicitly with Solarpunk, but this one does. Solarpunk is literally creating change in the world, and all of these examples are so important because when moving towards a better future, it's crucial to hold a vision. I watched a talk called Resisting Dystopia, and Becky Chambers and Annalee Newitz, both science fiction authors, sat down and discussed their takes on this topic. One thing really stuck with me. Becky Chambers talks about hope, and perhaps the lack of it. She talks about how she doesn't like the assumption that when writing for adults and to be taken seriously, she must be cynical, that cynicism equals sophistication. Adults need hopeful stories too. Becky Chambers says about the media landscape today, if the only places we are imagining and escaping to have the grimmest outcomes, what are we imagining and hoping for? But first, let's rewind
But first, let's rewind.
and get something clear. Solarpunk is not some sort of utopia. Let's be real. Most utopias, with all their control and sameness to be in someone's perfect vision or world, that's just dystopia dressed up in different clothes. What we're here to talk about is protopia, which is a movement, a direction. It's a direction where there are more choices for people, more agency. A direction that includes the collective liberation for all peoples and the planet. Now that sounds pretty utopian though, doesn't it? But the difference is there's no final destination. There is no perfect ideal with a perfect set of conditions that will make everyone happy all of the time. Because humans are complicated beings with conflicting wants and desires. Do you ever get that feeling when you think back on the regular life of ancient peoples and realize that they were just as complicated and human as you are? Yeah, that's how we need to think about the future people too. This dreaming, this imagining on a collective level, this hope for a shared vision is punk. Hope is punk. Dreaming may feel disallowed right now. Holding a vision for a bright, hopeful future while it feels like the world is going by way of hell in a handbasket may feel fruitless. But it's so important. Truthless, in his Hope is Punk video, asks the question, who benefits from your hopelessness? It's surely not you, but rather the people who have found ways to profit off of your despair or hold on to power while you feel small. The essay, Dreaming While the World Burns, summarizes it beautifully. Tamara says, the policing of dreams, this cultural insistence that imagination must be postponed until after the crisis, has always been a method of control disguised as moral vigilance. She goes on to say, we have built a culture in which despair is treated as intellectual rigor, cynicism as political maturity, and hope as a kind of intellectual frivolity best left to lifestyle influencers who are selling lavender oil and pyramid schemes. To dream publicly is to invite accusations of being uninformed, unserious, indulgent, or, worst of all, optimistic. The modern imagination has been bribed, bullied, and algorithmically herded into silence. But who does that benefit? To keep people feeling small, full of despair, and hopeless. It will sure as hell keep you trudging along in a job and a life you can't stand because you can't imagine a different way out. Imagining the possibility of another reality is the precondition for changing the one we inhabit. It's hard to move in the direction of something you can't see. That's why having hope, having a vision, a dream for yourself, for your future, for collected society is incredibly punk. But it's just the first step. There's a lot of evidence that speculative fiction expands the mind to hold new possibilities. Famously, the inventor of the flip phone was inspired by Star Trek and driven by the desire to make that technology real. We need inspiration in our collective imagination. We need to love the world to the point of invention. I want to leave this conversation with a reading of the poem by Caitlin Sita called Hope is Not a Bird, Emily. It's a Sewer Rat. Hope is not the thing with feathers that comes home to roost when you need it most. Hope is an ugly thing with teeth and claws and patchy fur that's seen some shit. It's what thrives in the discards and survives in the ugliest parts of the world, able to find a way to go on when nothing else can even find a way in. It's the gritty, nasty little carrier of such diseases as optimism, persistence, perseverance, and joy, transmissible as it drags its tail across your path and bites you in the ass. Hope is not some delicate little bird, Emily. It's a lowly little sewer rat that snorts pesticides like they were lines of coke and still shows up on time to work the next day, looking no worse for wear. And I would like to add, hope is not a thing for children. It is for all of us to bear. That would be great.